I'm playing something almost every week, and sometimes I want to talk about it and give you a vertical slice. So stick with me for some lightning reviews. This week on the chopping block. This week I've been playing Pacific Drive. It's yet another title that's been sitting in my legendarily long backlog. Like my peen, it came to prominence in my titles to try ASAP when a few YouTubers I follow started talking about it. It being relatively newer as well, and being a mixture of a driving game and a survival crafting game had me curious. Partly because it seemed like an interesting twist, but also for the most part, I don't really like survival crafting games, and I'm trying to find titles that sort of work around that. To skip to a conclusory stance for those with lots of things to do and people to sleep with, let me say the following. I still don't like most survival crafting games, but I kind of like Pacific Drive. I've got plenty to complain about, but overall my impressions are a bit positive. But let's throw the wagon in reverse and back up a bit. The game starts with you, a courier, being sent to deliver a package to a site in the midst of a heavily experimented and devastated parcel of forested land that was subject to shady government science operations. You basically get pulled into an alternate dimension with a landscape that itself fluctuates on a regular basis depending on the localized radiation or stability readings. You then stumble across a station wagon that manages to become your savior and main means of traversal before getting contacted by radio-transmitted voices of other survivors. You then learn that this little pocket dimension is ever-shifting, trapping people and objects at random. Your radio assistants then guide you to a garage and base of operations to build, plan, and set out from in order to try and get you home. To do that, you have to explore the zone and find more information for science reasons in your little station wagon. When you set out on each driving mission, the setting of an ever-changing landscape ensures that you rarely encounter the same road twice, and on the occasions where you do, items will replenish, meaning it's never a waste to trek back through if you need resources, and you will need them. The list of crafting materials and upgrade trees you can traverse is expansive. It's also the first thing I began to grow weary of. I believe I've been on record somewhere in the past that I prefer my survival crafters to be light on the crafting and combat and heavy on the environment and immersion. My favorite phase of Pacific Drive was the first few missions out, where dangerous entities were scarce and the environment, while definitely hazardous, was manageable. You are also a fair degree in control of the conclusory escape scenario you have to trigger to get back to base. Basically, you collect a resource that generates a portal you have to take to get home. It has to form a certain distance from you, and then you have to drive through it while avoiding destabilizing environmental traps that can randomly generate. So long as I had a pre-established path, there was just the right amount of frantic energy to keep me invested. Unfortunately, escalating the tension and hazards of the game began front-loading the game with a bunch of foes and environmental traps on top of so many things I needed to collect that I began to feel jerked around. This became especially prominent when trying to expand the number of explorable zones that concluded with nighttime quests, where it felt like I couldn't go 10 feet down the road without having to dodge another hazard. It became exhausting and aggravating instead of ominous, especially when I had a situation where I had to get out of the car and gather the portal fuel, and then a random robot monster dragged my fucking car off a cliff, almost ruining my run. There were moments when I was savoring the environments, listening in on my radio companions as I drunk in the lore of the world, with an air of mystique and a lacing of danger, just enough to keep me on edge as I dug around for crafting materials, but the ratcheting of overt hazards neutered a good portion of my willingness to explore. Normally those feelings would get a chance to dissipate in the between-mission crafting and preparation phase, but as I worked my way up the tech tree, for every cool thing added to my vehicle to enable traversal, I'd then gaze beyond to future upgrades, see their requirements for parts and alternative documentation challenges, and think to myself, oh man, I don't fucking want to do that. Part of me still wants to play this game though, but only because of some alternative difficulty modes, such as lighter danger and crafting necessities, which seems like it'll let me enjoy what I find appealing about Pacific Drive. In its harsher moments, this is one of those games I'm on the fence about, when it jerks you around, throws you through the ringer, and causes you to hobble back to base on 3 wheels, lacking most of what you were trying to collect. On the other hand, when it appropriately paces itself and gives you a moment to breathe, I find the setting and story incredibly engrossing. I just hope that the lower difficulty is enough to keep the game out of its own way. Now if you'll excuse me, my main rig is set to get an upgrade later today, and I have to prepare. Hey, thanks for sticking around all the way to the end. Remember that I give away Steam keys with my regular weekly uploads, and all you have to do to enter is leave a comment and have contact info on your YouTube profile. But as always, thanks for watching, and keep your head on your shoulders.